will now move on to our next session. It will be by Vidwan Shankararama Sharma ji, and he will be speaking on Vedāntasaṅgrahaḥ, an exploration into journey to self-knowledge. Vedāntasaṅgrahaḥ is yet another excellent work on Vedanta by Ramaraya Kavi ji. Just a brief introduction to the speaker. Vidwan Shankararama Sharma ji is a traditional Vidwan and he works as techno-linguistic scholar at Vyoma Linguistics Lab. He is pursuing PhD at Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. He is initiated into teachings of Bhagavad Gita at the age of 4 by his mother, and he has earned the blessings of Jagadgurus of both Sringeri Sharda Peetham and Kanchi Kamakoti Peetham for memorizing the entire Bhagavad Gita. He has completed Pravesha exam conducted by Sura Saraswati Sabha of Sringeri. He holds a MA degree in Advaita Vedanta from Karnataka Sanskrit University, and he was guided by his grandfather Mahamahopadhyay, Dr. Krishnamurti Shastrigal. He is currently engaged in writing Shastra Pariksha exams in Tenali, and he had done his Veda Dhyana under his paternal grandfather Sri Ramalinga Sharma, and he currently continues Veda Dhyana under Sri Anantashesha Sharma, and Sri Shankararama Sharma ji has also conducted various Ramayana Navahams and Bhagavata Saptahams multiple times and delivers lectures in Tamil, Kannada and English. We are very grateful to you for taking time for this session. Please go ahead and start the session.
योऽन्तः प्रविश्य मम वाचमिमां प्रसुप्तां सञ्जीवयत्यखिलशक्तिधरस्वधाम्ना अन्यांश्च हस्तचरणश्रवणत्वगादीन् प्राणान्नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यं मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे सद्गुरुं चन्द्रशेखरं मातामहौ मातरं च पितरं च पितामहौ मातुलं च गुरून् सर्वान् वन्देऽहं ज्ञानसिद्धये. So as we have been listening to Bellamkonda Ramaraya Kavi's various granthas, and we are going to listen to the day, he was a Hayagriva Upasaka, which Sri Nagaraj Paturi Mahodaya himself said. So he begins many of his granthas with a dhyana to Hayagriva. Similarly, he begins this Vedāntasaṅgrahaḥ also with a Mangala Shloka to Hayagriva. Natva Lakshmi Hayagriva Charanam Bhoruhadvayam Vedāntasaṅgrahosmabhihi Kriyate Balabuddhaye, he says. So as the dhyana itself says, it is Kriyate Balabuddhaye. So for those who are wanting to enter into Vedanta Shastra, for them I have composed this work. So we see a similar invocatory verse in Tarkasaṅgrahaḥ and a few other granthas. Especially for Vedanta, the famous grantha for entry into Vedanta is Vedāntasara by Sadananda. It is well known, a lot of people study that. Those who are into Advaita Vedanta, they study the Vedāntasara work. Similarly, there is another work called Laghu Vasudeva Mananam, where we do not know the author for that work, and that is also quite well known. And this Vedāntasaṅgrahaḥ of Ramaraya is also a very similar work. See, all these three granthas, they begin and they talk about the various tenets of Advaita Vedanta. For a person who is just entering into Advaita Vedanta, what are the basic principles? So what is Advaita Vedanta? What should you know? Who is the Adhikari? What is the goal of Vedanta? And what is the Pramanas? And all these things are what are talked about. So concepts like Adhyasa and other things are handled in all these granthas. But the uniqueness of this Vedāntasaṅgrahaḥ over the other two granthas, which are quite well known, is there is a separate chapter. The chapters are quite small here. The whole grantha itself is quite small as are other granthas, but it is so filled with this thing. Uh, and the language that he uses is also straightforward. It is simple, at the same time very clear. So you understand the basic tenets very well. So that is how he puts forth all this thing. So as I was saying, the uniqueness of this grantha is he has a chapter that is devoted to devotion, bhakti. Bhakti in Advaita Vedanta. We don't see that in the other two granthas of Vedāntasaṅgrahaḥ or Laghu Vasudeva Vananam, and we hardly find it in Shastra granthas. In Shastra granthas, the bhakti view of Advaita is very less dealt with. Very few places we will see. At the same time, even in Advaita Siddhi itself, Advaita Siddhi, which Vidwan Dr. Srinivas was referring to, even there, the Madhusudana Saraswati, who is a very staunch Advaitin, and he is just cutting into pieces all the arguments put forth by the Dvaitin scholar. In between, he inserts a verse where he says, Vamshi Vibhushita Karat, Namanira Dabhat, Pitambarad Arunabimba Phaladaroshtat, Purnendu Sundaramukhat, Aravinda Netrat, Krishnat Param Kimapi Tattvamaham Najani. So, bhakti holds a very important part in Advaita Vedanta. So, it is not that Advaita does not consider bhakti to be a marga. Bhakti marga is expounded so well in Bhagavad Gita, and Bhagavad Gita is an Advaita grantha. And we have to understand the place of bhakti in Advaita Vedanta. And that is why our Jagadguru Shankaracharya has so various granthas that are related to all deities. Every temple he goes to, he has composed so many verses for our Nitya Parayana. So going along that, here Ramaraya Kavi has a chapter that is devoted only to bhakti. So we will see only, we will dwell upon only that chapter, because within half an hour we can't cover all the things. And many of you who are here are also exposed to Advaita. So many of the concepts that he has, and you can easily read this. It is not difficult to go through this grantha. But the beauty of this grantha is this part in Advaita and the wonderful language and clarity of concepts that he gives through. So coming to the 14th chapter, which is Bhakti Marga, he begins saying Bhakti Pujyeshu Anuragaha. So we see various definitions of Bhakti in various granthas. So Swatmanubhuti itself is Bhakti. Bhakti to a particular devata is Bhakti. So like this, there are various definitions in various granthas. Here he gives a very simple definition. Bhakti pujyeshu anuragaha. An attachment to a person who is worthy of worship. Pujya is any person who is worthy of worship. Is the devotion that you have there is called bhakti. And then who is the one who is worthy of such a devotion? Who are the people who you can be devoted to? Brahma Vishnuadayo Devataha Ishwaratmakaha. All the devatas that are there, Brahma, Vishnu, etc., so many others that you can have, all these are that Ishvara Swarupa. So previously he has defined Ishvara as Maya Vachinna Chaitanya. That consciousness, that Atma Swarupa, which has Maya as its upadhi, as its adjunct, is called, based upon the various gunas in the Prakriti, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. They might take various different forms, and based on the Jiva's this thing, he will worship whichever form is apt for him. So these are the people who are fit to be worshipped. Ekopi Ishvaraha swa upadhi mayanishta sattvaadi gunabhedat brahma vishtvaadi bheda bhinno bhavati iti siddhantat. So that is exactly what we said now. So based upon sattva and other gunas which are inherent in Maya, these serve as the upadhis for those Ishvaras, and they are to be worshipped. So we already saw that this Ishvara that is there is that Maya Vachinna Chaitanya. And because this Maya is infinite, just as our consciousness, Atma Swarupa, is infinite, similarly the Maya, which is its Ubadhi for an Ishvara, is also infinite. Therefore, Ishvara is also infinite. And that is why we call Ishvara as Sarvagataha, Sarvajnaha, Sarvatmakaha, and all these. So he is omniscient, omnipresent, and so on. And therefore, the Shruti says, Sarvam Khalu Idam Brahma, Sarvam Vishnumayam Jagat, and so on in the Smritis. That Ishvara is who says, Tadaikshata Bahusyam Prajayeya, or Satchatyacha Bhavat. All these Shruti Vakyas refer to Ishvara, that Ishvara who is a Pujya. Now he goes here into a different this thing. He says, Karyam Karanat Ananyam. Ghataha mridaha iva iti lokanyayat. So this is a very important concept that has to be understood in Advaita Vedanta and any Vedanta for that matter. It is very laukika nyaya. Karya is some effect, is not different from its cause. For example, he says, a pot is not different from the clay that it is made of. Karyam karanat ananyam. So a pot we have that is not different from the clay that it is made of. But at the same time, the clay is the pot. So it is only a one-way relation. The pot is not different from the clay, but clay is different from the pot. Therefore, Sarvakaranat Ishvarat Jagad Ananyameva. So this Ishvara who is there, he is Sarvakarana. He is the cause for everything in this whole universe that we can see. Therefore, Sarvatmakatvam Ishvarasya Siddham. Therefore, he is inherent. He is immanent in everything. He is through and through everything that we see in this Jagat. Tadevam Sarvasya Jagataha Ishvaratmakatvepi Pujaka Vyavahara Anyatha Anupapatya Keshanchit Pujyatvam Keshanchit Apujyatvam. Therefore, even though the entire world has Ishvara as itself, so that Ishvara is within each of us, through and through everything. Just like clay is through and through the pot, there is nothing other than that clay. Similarly, even though Ishvara is the self of everything, since we cannot account for, so now we are dealing about bhakti. So there is some Ishvara is to be worshipped, and we are the worshippers of that Ishvara. So now we have to say a difference between these two. So he says, just because of Vyavahara, Paramarthikataya, that is the reality. But in Vyavahara, there is no, we have to say that there is somebody called worshipped and there is somebody called worshippers. It just has to be accepted like that. There are some who are worshipped and there are some who is worshippers. This is how we have to accept. So we cannot account for this empirical experience, but nevertheless, this is how it is. Then he says, Tatra ye pujyaha ashwathadayaha te ishvaraha. So there is this, we go to the temple and then there is that Ashwatha tree. We do pradakshina of Ashwatha tree. So even those are worshipped as Ishvara. Te Ishvaraha. Ye pujyaha te Ishvaraha. So that Ishvaratva is in the bhava of this jiva. If you see an Ashwatha as Ishvara, then Ashwatha is Ishvara because Ishvara is Sarvatmaka. So there is nothing other than Ishvara. Pujakastu jivaha iti kalpaniko bhedaha. So we, the jivas, are the worshippers. This is just an imaginary distinction. Atayeva guna bhedat karma bhedat cha Brahma, Vishnu, Rudra, Indra, Vanhi, Vayu, Chandrarka, and so on. Anyatamam Ishvaratvena archayanti purushaha. By their own, the jiva, because of his own purva karma and his guna bheda, whether he is towards sattva, rajas, or tamas, based on that he has his own Ishtadevata and he does the puja of that Ishtadevata. He worships that particular Ishtadevata. Tatra ye purushaha brahmadi sharirobadhikam ishvara chaitanyam archayanti te uttamaha. Ye tu sharirameva ishvara buddhya archayanti te mandaha iti vivekaha. Those who worship, you can have any form based upon your own this thing, based upon your gunas. But if in that form you are able to worship your Ishtadevata as the Chaitanya Swarupa, that is that Ishvara Chaitanyam, it is that Sarvatma Chaitanyam. For example, you see that Ashwatha Vriksha, the example that the author takes. The Ashwatha Vriksha itself is Ishvara. It is Sarvatmaka. It is that Ishvara which is there within everything. If you are able to see that Sarvatmakatva in that Ashwatha Vriksha, then you are an Uttama Bhakta. Te Uttamaha. You are worshipping that Chaitanya within that. So that is Uttama. Those who see that object itself, that form of the deity, that is where their mental faculties go and stand. Then they are Madhyamaha, Mandaha. They are of a little lower strata. If you think that that deity there, that stone or something made up of in other shastras, it is there. There are 8 ways which you can make a deity. It could be a drawing. It could be something made of mud. It could be made of stone. Drishadi hridi mrdi kwapi va bhavayitva. So like this, it could be in any different form. So that way, if you have that form and you think that picture is the Lord, then they are Manda Bhaktas. So this is how we distinguish between Uttama Bhaktas and Manda Bhaktas. Therefore, whichever Ishtadevata you have, if you are able to worship that Ishtadevata as Sarvatma Chaitanya, then that is Uttama Bhakti. Iyam Bhakti tavat vividha saguna nirguna bhedat. So he next splits this Bhakti into 2 different ways. Saguna and Nirguna Bhakti. So what is the Saguna Bhakti? So Vasudevadinam Murtinam Bahihi Shilado Kalpitanam Seva Saguna Bhakti. So if you take your Ishtadevata and outside in some kind of a form, you have that as Archavatara in the temple, or your own Panchayatana Puja at home, you have pictures that you do, then that is called as Saguna Bhakti. You have a form outside to understand that to do your worship, you have a form outside that is called as Saguna Bhakti. The same, instead, if you have it only in your Manas, Manasi Kalpita Tanmurti Seva Nirguna Bhakti. That same Murti, but you have it only in your Manas, then that is called as Nirguna Bhakti. To have it in your Manas, to do Manasika Puja is the highest form of puja that you can do, because you need immense concentration to do that. That's why he goes on to explain Saguna Trividha Satvika Rajasa Tamasa Bhedat. The Saguna Bhakti, where you worship in a form outside, that is again in 3 manners based on Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. That puja which is done outside without any phalabhasanti, without any want, that is Satviki. If you have something that you want from that deity, most of us are like that. You go to the temple, you ask for some prarthana, I want this to happen, these are my desires, please fulfill that. That is called as Rajasa Bhakti. And then the third kind, Dambhadyartham Krita Seva Tamasi iti. Just for the sake of pride or conceit, just to show off, or done with some malicious intentions, that is called as Tamasa Bhakti. So these are 3 kind of Saguna Bhaktis. Nirguna Bhakti, there is only one way, because you already have that. If you have that Murti within yourself, he wants to mean that it can be only Satviki Bhakti, it cannot be anything else. And this Nirguna Bhakti can be different based on your Upasya Devata, based upon your Ishta Devata. It could be many. If you have Ganapati as Ishta Devata, then that is different from having Vishnu as Ishta Devata. That way Nirguna Bhakti can be different, but principally Nirguna Bhakti is the same. Now in this, among this, that Satviki Saguna Bhakti that is there, Tattat Devata Loka Dayini. The Satviki Saguna Bhakti that you have, let us say you are doing Panchayatana Puja every day, and that is Satvika, without any Phalabhisaddha, you say Rogakshepartham. You do a Sankalpa, and that is how you are doing the Puja every day. That Tattat Devata Loka Dayini, it will give you that Loka of whichever Devata you are doing the Puja of. If you do the puja of Mahavishnu, it is going to give you Vaikuntha Loka. If you do the puja of Sadashiva, it is going to give you Kailasa Loka. You do the puja of Brahma, it is going to give you Brahma Loka, and so on. He gives those explanations. Meru Parvata Shikarastam Shubhrapatnyam Vikuntayam Jatena Harina Vaikunthena Ramayaha Priyakamneya Sankalpena Nirmitam Vaikuntanamakam Nagaram Praproti. Similarly, he says Kailasa and Chaturmukha Upasaka. Those who worship Brahma go to that Brahma Loka, and so on. whichever loka. If you do worship of Surya, you will go to Surya loka. Of Chanda, you will go to Chanda loka. Whichever Shrestha Devata you are doing puja, the Saguna Sattvika Bhakti will take you to that particular loka. That is why it is said in Gita, Bhagavan Krishna says, Abrahma Bhuvanal Lokaha Punaravartinarjuna. Abrahma Bhuvanal Lokaha. Till Brahma Loka, everywhere you will come back again. This Saguna Sattvika Bhakti also will take you to that loka. Once that punya or something is over, you might come back to this loka. So, Brahma there, that Brahma means till Brahma loka. There, the Brahma loka refers not the Chaturmukha Brahma loka, it refers to Satya loka. In Satya loka, if you go, you will stay there for a long time till the end of that kalpa. Then Brahma himself will give you Atma Jnana and you will become Mukta Purusha. Tato Brahmalokam Saguna Mukti Kshetram Satyanamkam Gatanam Na Punaravartihi. Those who go to Satya Loka, for them there is no Punaravarti, there is no rebirth. They do not come back here again. They go on from there. This here we see, even if you go to Vaikuntha Loka or Kailasa, there could be Punaravarti. For this we have examples. For example, Jaya and Vijaya, who were the doorkeepers of Mahavishnu, they themselves had to be born here. As the two in Asuri Yoni, they had to be born. Similarly, you see in Kailasa, in Sundaramurti Narayana's story, they had to be born here again due to some desire. So even if you go to that Loka because of Saguna Bhakti, you have all the chance to being born here again. But at the same time, if you go to that loka because of Saguna Bhakti, there is a high chance that because of that satsanga in that loka, you will attain mukti. Yedi tu meru parvadashraya vaikuntha puradi gatanamapi satsangadi vashat vidyalabhaha tadhi te tatra shariram vidhuya muktim prapnuyuhu eva. If they get satsanga there, and if Vidya is given, that they get that Atma Jnana, then they will surely attain Mukti. They will attain that Atma Swarupa. This is where Ramana Maharshi also is one of the places. One devotee came and asked, what happens to people who go there, who go to these lokas? Just take it in a very short manner. Ramana Maharshi also said, there also when you go there, Shiva will come and tell you your Atma Swarupa. He will ask you to see who you are. Mahavishnu Narayana will come and tell you to see who you are. That is how, that is the only way for mukti. Shariram vidhuya muktim prapriyuhu. They will forget this ahanta and mamata will go and they will attain mukti. Yatra kutrapi vidyam vina na muktihi. Without vidya, without this Atma Jnana, there is no mukti. Absolutely no mukti. Brahmalokam gatanamapi brahmakrita mahavakya upadeshajanya brahmatma aparokshadeva muktihi. For those who go to that Satyaloka also, for who there is no punaravrti, even there that Brahma is going to do Atmopadesha mahavakya upadeshajanya brahmatma aparokshadeva muktihi. Only when you realize that self, only then there is mukti. And he quotes a smriti, Brahmana sahate sarve samprapte pratisanchare parasyante gadatmanaha pravishanti param padam. So at the end of that kalpa, they all attain mukti. Ataha sarvairapi vidyartham yathadhikaram yatitavyam. So according to the adhikari, each one has to put in their efforts towards understanding this Atma Jnana. Natu udasitavyam. You cannot just lay back and say, I will not do anything. You have to put in the efforts to attain the Atma Jnana, and that effort is in form of this bhakti. You worship that. You have to begin with Saguna Bhakti. You cannot start with Nirguna Bhakti immediately. He says that Nirguna Bhakti will lead you to Dhyana and Dharana, which are limbs of yoga. And then because of the concentration, it will take you to Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So Nirguna Bhakti will take you there directly. But the Saguna Bhakti is what is the first step that has to be taken. And doing Saguna Bhakti, you have a high chance of attaining Mukti. So he quotes Bhagavata Prahlada saying, Labdhva sudurlabhamidam bahu sambhavante manushya marthadam anityam api hedhiraha turnam yatetana patet anumrityu yavate nishreyasaya vishaya khalu sarvatasyat. So having attained this Manushya Deha after so many births, this rare human birth which is useful, even though it is transient, it is only temporary. This Manushya Deha is only temporary. One should put in the efforts, one should endeavor till death to attain moksha, to attain that Atmajnana without any lapse by doing bhakti towards their own Ishtadevata. Iti Bhagavate Prakala Vachanat, iti Bhakti Marga Nirupanam. So beautifully he brings in the concepts of bhakti within the framework of Advaita, and how Advaita is a poshaka to bhakti. How this bhakti is a poshaka to Advaita Jnana, and how there is no contradiction between Advaita Jnana and bhakti, and how bhakti can give you Advaita Jnana in a very simple manner. So this way, he has, even in the first, in a basic grantha like Vedāntasaṅgrahaḥ, he has explained bhakti also, which is a part of, which is quite unique to this book. So, as Nagaraj Mahodaya was saying in the morning, the Chinmaya International Foundation has published an English translation of this book. So, this is okay. I don't know whether this can be seen. One second. Yeah. So, a few English translations have been published. You can probably you can find it online, and then you can read this wonderful book. Thank you. नमो नमः यतोन्मात्मा भवसे त्वमेव ततो न वाच्यं मम किञ्चिदस्ति यथा तवेष्टं कुरु मां तथैव त्वामात्मनाथं रमणं भजामि.
Thank you very much, Shankararama Sharma ji, for a wonderful presentation on the connection between Bhakti and Vedanta as presented by Ramaraya Kavi ji in Vedāntasaṅgrahaḥ. This is a topic which is often comes up in discussions. There are often allegations that in Advaita there is no place for Bhakti, or it is opposite, it is antithetical to Bhakti. It is very wonderful that Ramaraya Kaviji has presented it in a very systematic and a comprehensive manner of the subject. Thank you very much on speaking the topic.